Hey guys, it is Jouelzy and today is Hallows Eve. I don't celebrate, but I don't know why I got this thing on my head. I'm finally getting around to doing the Being Mary Jane episode 3 review. I recorded a review twice now. First time it was just like I was talking in circles, and then second time I shot the whole thing out of focus. Hot mess. Always shop Smartbrowngirl.com. Our mugs are now in white, but forever stay blessed and unbothered. As unbothered as you can, girl. It's been hard for me this week. If you enjoy this video, I definitely need you to thumbs up the video and leave a comment down below. This episode of Being Mary Jane was called Sparrow. And I don't know, is it Eyes on the Sparrow? Is that why it was called Sparrow? Bruh. Excellent, well-written episode. Covered so many topics, so many bases, but it just opened up with something that was way too close to my personal life. I'm just gonna cover what I've been going through. I did a video last year entitled Losing Friends, Lack of Support, where I detailed like this lunch intervention that happened with 3 friends. And one of the girls I was upset with, and one of the other girls was my really close friend, and I just like ended up being upset with one and then losing all 3 girls in the situation as friends, and kind of talking about my feelings about like how that all worked or whatever. You know, I gave my little Jouelzy Pope speech. And the girl who I was really close to called me on September 28th. She called me, she'd been drinking, listening to jazz, and she was just like, I thought about you, why haven't we talked in so long, whatever. I just want to call and say that I love you, and I apologize, and I love you. And I didn't really have any like visions of reconciliation or whatever, but it was just like, yo, that's true. Like, it's just so simple. You knew Colleen. It was just a very like Colleen thing, and it was like, okay, girl, like you feel good about it. And then last Thursday she passed away in a car accident. And as this grieving process, I've already written a blog post review on this episode and kind of intertwined my own feelings with dealing with grief in it. But like, you cannot choose how to grieve. And when I got the call about Colleen's death, I thought mentally that I could choose how I was going to grieve about her death. And there's a scene in this episode of Being Mary Jane where MJ is talking to David about thinking that she was going to cry when she wrote Lisa's eulogy. And it didn't happen, and it happened in the moment where she was trying on a dress, and she had this really kind of banal memory of, you know, Lisa just telling her don't buy the dress because it's too expensive, and Lisa was right because she ended up finding it somewhere for cheaper, and that just kind of blew her, you know, that it just hit her really hard. It was the same thing for me. I don't know, it's just been a very peculiar kind of week of, do I have a right to grieve? Do I have a right to feel like this? Like, you know, she left behind a 7-month-old daughter. You know, I was in a circle of really close friends, and so I know how hard it is for them, and I just feel it's just a lot. It's a lot of, I don't feel like there's any one word or set of words that encapsulates the feelings of just a wavelength of emotions that I've gone through this week. For those of you who are lost or sorry, haven't been caught up, in the opening scene, Lisa, MJ's best friend, commits suicide. I appreciate that they didn't portray her as being like super weak and down and like crying. It was like a clear decision for her. I don't know what words to really use to describe the suicide scene, but I appreciate that it wasn't told from the perspective of like super weak and distraught. And even the scene when Mary Jane was going through her phone and looking up all the missed calls from Lisa, because she hadn't talked to Lisa in close to a year, I think is the timeline of this episode. And it was just, the music was hitting, the scene, the cinematography. I'm just like, Akil Productions is killing the game. The opening quote was, "We choose our joys and our sorrows long before we experience them," by Khalil Gibran, girl, I ain't that smart. I don't know how to pronounce that man's name. But it basically speaks to, we choose to be the victim, or we can choose to kind of be the warrior. And you can take that on so many levels, whether you feel like Lisa was really selfish and was choosing to make herself the ultimate victim, even though she was the one who kind of did something wrong that led to her breakup with MJ in the end, or whether you look at it from the perspective of Mary Jane's complete unwillingness to allow herself moments to be vulnerable. She just does not, with anybody, whether it's David, whether it's her home family, whether it's her co-workers, even with Lisa, she just Mary Jane, and this is what makes it so difficult. This is what makes me really not like her, is that she just always has to assert herself in order to cover up her vulnerabilities. And she's missing the opportunity to embrace her vulnerability, to be a little bit more open and be able to use the power of her vulnerability in her favor. And I think that's why her and David constantly have this conflict. Not that David ain't wrong in his own bullshit too, though, but it's like, at least with her mom, I just wish there was a little bit more compassion and humanity and understanding from Mary Jane, and she could have all that if she just was a little bit more vulnerable. She'd just be so hard-headed. But even though it's like, it makes me be like, about Mary Jane, I also appreciate it because we all on some wavelength have had those moments in our life too. Like, I have been that person that I don't like in Mary Jane, right? Like, I have been the one who was unwilling to back down or unwilling to own my hurt and my feelings or whatever I termed as my weakness, because I didn't want somebody to see my vulnerable side. And so instead of, embracing my humanness in that moment, I kind of pushed back harder and was really aggressive and selfish and mean in the long run, because I was not comfortable with my own vulnerability. And so what's great about being Mary Jane is that even when you don't like MJ, there's a lesson to be learned about how you interact in your own life, right? So she's always going to be a little bit more extreme to kind of get the point across, and I think there's a little bit of Mary Jane in all of my smart brown girls, so lessons to be learned. To go back to the C with missed calls, it's just like a lot of this made me appreciate my own kind of commitment to integrity and being intentional, in that if a close friend calls me, I never not answer or don't return a call, even when we've had some sort of falling out. Now, that don't mean that I won't hang up the phone once I answer. I try to live with people that I truly love. I try. I don't always succeed in trying to live like, appreciate them like tomorrow is not guaranteed. And so the scene where Mary J, Cara, and then I don't know, the other was in a show. What's the one with the short hair's name? And the one with her short hair friend, they're all reminiscing about Lisa and her life. And the woman says, Black people don't commit suicide. And Mary Jane said, I hung that right up next to my strong Black woman badge. And that was a very, very important conversation. Shout out to Cara, girl, it's late, for really kind of stepping in and speaking up to remove the shame from people who acknowledge their mental health and seek treatment, whether that is going to the therapist, whether that is taking medication, and that there is no shame in taking medication if need be. There are plenty of very functional people who take medication. And so to think that this is a race or even break it down to an ethnic thing is so false, and so it makes us suffer way more than we need to. Wait till you meet a Black man who's depressed and don't want to acknowledge it, and then get your feelings hurt because he has too much ego and pride to humble himself and deal with the issues that he's facing. Girl, we done been through that ish too. So shout out to Cara for covering that one. Mama Helen is still late. Shout out to her and her royal blue. Shout out to her for gathering all of Mary Jane's edges and pulling them like, just come back down to earth. Like, is it too much? Is it really too much? I just wish Mary Jane would have some compassion with her mama. When it came to Mary Jane's treatment of Lisa's funeral, I think that's where I had the biggest issue with in this episode. When Mary Jane's at Lisa's house and Lisa's parents show up. Lisa has not talked to her parents for 15 years. Tina Knowles' new husband popped up as Lisa's dad. We all like, ooh, look at Tina Knowles' husband. Look at Mama Tina's husband. As an ain't shit ass Negro. But isn't he always on to some sniffling, conniving-ish? He another, older version of Amari Hardwick, except for he tall and he chocolatey. And shout out to Mama Tina for just doing so damn well. Post Matthew out here acting a damn fool in all these interviews. But I feel like if Mary Jane allowed herself to be a bit more of an empathetic or compassionate person, she could impact a lot more change. I was like, not that, you need to handle someone like Lisa's stepfather with care, but because that is Lisa's mother, and because it's not just oh, fuck you, you sexually assaulted Lisa. It's like, hey, Lisa's mother, I need you to come around and see. That you have to kind of communicate to her on her level. And Mary Jane is always up top. She's always up here when she talks to people, and she never brings it down to the level where people are going to be willing to hear her. And so to me, it's like, you know, I do believe that the mother just deserves some right to be a part of Lisa's funeral. And for her to be so hard-willed, the only reason it felt like Lisa's parents even bended to Mary Jane was not because they understood what Lisa's stepfather did, but because of Mary Jane's notoriety and how other people would perceive it if Mary Jane wasn't at the funeral, which still doesn't do any service to Lisa and the struggle that she had with her family. I don't really care for Mary Jane announcing that Lisa was sexually assaulted at the funeral, because again, what does that do? It just immediately puts person on the defense. It's like a talking point until people forget about it, and then what change is really impacted? It's like, did you stand this hard for Lisa when she was alive? And I think Lisa definitely had her faults, and just because you committed suicide, no, that doesn't mean that we can't talk about them. But Mary Jane has not been an easy person to be friends with. Like, she is very emotionally needy when she's down. Like, she needs you to understand and get on her level and come down to where she at. But when she up and you down, I didn't see any moment where MJ kind of came back down for Lisa. I've been talking a lot about vulnerability. Have you watched my emotional maturity and avoiding fuckboys video? This is what I talk about exactly. David ain't really my type. I don't do light skin, I don't do bald heads, and he don't got no booty. So like, it's just 3 strikes you out. But because of what him and MJ had and how crazy MJ is over him, I want them both to just kind of reel it back in. Like, take a step back and actually both be more vulnerable. I'm not so bent with her having to get with David, but if Olivia and Fitz can be out here still finagling and fucking and marrying and shit, and we all over that relationship, then I'm not going to be so dismissive of Mary Jane and David's possibility of getting back together. Definitely important to talk about how not just mothers, but even how in the Black community we treat sexual assault of children, and how it has historically been a very dismissed topic, especially when it comes to young girls, something that we so quickly sweep under the rugs, whether it is the mother, you know, choosing her spouse over her own child, whether it is just both parents not hearing their child out, both using a child's mental health as a reason to dismiss the harm that's been done to them. It just, on so many levels, on so many layers, the portrayal of Lisa's relationship with her parents and the sexual assault at the hands of her stepfather is, again, it's another, did Mary Jane ever cap this hard for Lisa when she was alive? You know, I'm a firm believer of give me flowers while I can still smell them, tell me you love me while my heart still beats, and stand up for me while I can still hold you upright, hands embraced, holding your back up too. Like, just don't wait till I'm in the grave to like rejoice about your friendship with me. Like, be my friend in the now. And I don't feel like we really saw that authentically from Mary Jane. So when she was going mad hard from the pulpit, I was like, damn girl. I mean, I guess we can have our yes moment because it's TV, but for me this is real life, because I'm grappling with, you know, really like the amount of love that I have for a person who passed away. And not that I don't have a regret about any kind of the span of Colleen and I's friendship. I think everything happened for a reason. Everything evolved at the right note. And no matter the fact that we hadn't talked for 4 years, I can't deny the impact that this girl had on my life. And like, that's what's kind of like really was blowing me this week. It's just like how all these memories are coming back up. And, you know, I'm seeing pictures of my old apartment and Colleen loved me before I found my eyebrows in a decent weave. She loved me when I was out here looking like struggle. And a lot of what I talk about in Smart Brown Girl, and a lot of my kind of outward confidence that I've been able to kind of come and take pride in, you know, was inspired by my relationship with Colleen. And so like this, having all this kind of come to fruition at this moment, and it's coming back to mind through the process of grief, it's a weird space to be in. It's like, how do I have a right to share these memories? Do I have a right to reflect? Do I have a right to insert myself in the kind of communal grieving that's happened because I didn't talk to her for 4 years? And you know, I have a certain level of humility and compassion that I would have loved to see in Mary Jane. And that was why it was a lot more personal for me in watching this episode. I do appreciate when Mary Jane acknowledged that she didn't necessarily love Lisa as much as she could because she didn't want to hear Lisa's truth. Nobody really wanted to hear Lisa's truth. Love your friend no matter how ugly their truth is. Be intentional. Have integrity. Even when your pride gets in the way, humility will go a very long way. Hey friend, let's talk. Nigga, I love you. I'm just so grateful that I was able to have that moment with someone who I am so upset that she is not here to share her magic with the world. I mean, it's just crazy to me that I didn't really have dreams of reconciliation. I just simply thought that I would be great and Colleen would be great, and at some point our lives would cross paths again and we'd be like, hey girl, nigga, what's good? Like, we truly lived. And that was really the moment I broke down, was when I realized she was a part of my life when I was truly living at 120%, girl. To be young and hopeful in New York City before it got too damn expensive was just so many memories, so many. And I'm really, really sad that she's not here to continue just being awesome in her own way. It's not fair, it sucks, it's all these things, but being Mary Jane, it's just such a good show that it could even like tap into all these feelings that I'm going through. So let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts on this episode are. I already wrote a blog post review. Please read it. That helps me so much. Read it, girls. I know you like to watch and hear me talk, but reading is fundamental. So is comprehension. And comment. Comment on the blog post. Comment down below. As always, thanks for watching. Deuces.
I'm an alien from outer space.
Also, Lindsay Williams, like, so, yeah. The last time that we were here, you know, my hair was like very, very short and blonde, but I really like this hair. What do you ladies think?
How you doing?
How you doing? Yes. Look at that. Yeah, it's a wig. Yeah. That's crazy.
How you doing?
How you doing?